Hey there, welcome to the podcast. In this interview series, I interview Brandon Voss. And if you haven't seen the previous episodes, go back, check out the podcast, search Zach Calhoun Podcast, subscribe, and go back to the first episode where you can hear the entire interview where Brandon unlocks and reveals all his steps in his process as a professional real estate photography team. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you. Make sure to subscribe, shoot us a review, and let's get to the interview. This episode is brought to you by CloudPano.com. Create 360 virtual tours, white label them with your own URL, add floor plans, dollhouses, upload to Google Street View. CloudPano.com is the #1 virtual tour platform. Get started today at CloudPano.com. Yeah, so, okay, cool. So there's a lot of folks that will probably wonder or ask the question based on the stage of the business, right? So you said the two most important things you did was hire editors and hire administrator. Okay, so what came first, editors or administrator?
Editors.
Okay, editors first. So that's priority #1 if you want to do this business model. Administrator,
Agreed.
when do you hire one? And also, let's talk about hiring in general. When do you hire more photographers? At what point? At what scale do you need to be at? Is it when it's painful, or like try to answer that question? I know it's hard to answer, but
Sure.
what do you think for you in any
No,
ways?
no, it's not that hard because it seems like yesterday. I remember, I remember shooting 8 houses in one day, that was the
Wow.
first time that I thought to myself, I need help.
Mhm.
And and then I started looking for people, which is a whole separate story. But I found, a photographer, and then he started helping me out, and then we were each doing 2 to 3 jobs a day.
Mhm.
And then when it got to the point that we were each doing 4 or 5 jobs a day, then I started looking for another photographer.
Mhm.
So that's sort of my general rule. If all the photographers are doing, if we're having to turn work away because we're too busy,
Yep.
that's when I start thinking I probably need another photographer.
Mhm.
Um, and then as far as hiring that administrator, that was when it got to the point where I was getting phone calls and texts that needed uh, answering like right away while I was at a job. That's when I started thinking I probably need somebody to help me with this
Yeah,
because
that's
it would get
painful. Yeah.
really, really annoying.
Yeah.
I would be at shoot after shoot, and I'd be like, "Excuse me for a second. Excuse me for a second." It, and I remember one time it happened 3 times in one shoot, and I could see that the agent was starting to get annoyed.
Mhm.
And I told him, I was like, "I really need help," and they were like, "Yeah, you do." And so I
Dang.
started putting my feelers out there,
Yeah.
and so that's how I got her. So,
Well, let's
but
talk
yeah,
about
I
that.
find
Yeah. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I want to talk about that because hiring is a whole different topic, and I could probably spend like
Sure.
7 billion podcasts on it. But
Oh
I
yeah.
want to know, when it came to hiring photographers, how did you put feelers out there? What's that really mean? And also too for your administrator as well. Like, what's some stuff you did to find the right person? Because I've done some stuff in the past. Some of it's worked great, some of it's worked terribly. I want to know for your perspective, just like, okay, I'm in pain. I need to hire somebody. What do you do? What's somebody out there do?
So for photographers, in each case, the best photographers that I've had, and by that I mean they've lasted a long time, they do good work, they get requested. The best photographers that I've had have always been some word of mouth, like somebody
Mhm.
knew somebody that knew somebody.
Mhm.
In fact, all 4 out of the 5 photographers were people that knew somebody. Um,
Cool.
and I think that helps a lot, because basically I've got somebody that can vouch for them, like
Yeah.
my main thing is I just don't want to be screwed over. And I've had that in the past where I've hired somebody like off of Indeed or something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And those are the people that they work for you. You basically train them, and then they go off and do their own thing.
They take your customers.
Well, they try, but
They
that
try.
that usually doesn't work. Yeah, because And
Yeah.
I'm not really concerned about that anymore. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not really concerned about that anymore because to do to offer what we offer, you really need a pretty large operation. Like to have the back-end system that gives the property websites, to have the editors that work overnight, to be able to pay all these people, to have somebody that can answer the phone all the time, things like that. They can't do that by themselves.
Yeah.
So go
That's
for it. Try
that's
to
the
take
moat.
my
Yeah.
customers. Good
You ever
luck.
you
Like
have you ever hear that analogy of the, like, what's the moat in your business, right? It's like the Warren Buffett analogy. Like he's looking for moats. Like what keeps out the competitors or whatever. And I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think one of the biggest moats for you is the operation, like the operational efficiency you have going. It's hard to come. It's really hard to beat. I want to ask you, how far do you guys go? You said Baytown to Columbus. That's like a freaking far reach. I mean, did
it
y'all
is.
do y'all go all around Houston, or is it just like west part? I mean,
Um,
what's the
so
reach?
so I have a photographer up in like the Woodlands area,
Okay.
and then that she lives there. And then I have another one that lives more in Cypress.
Okay.
So for those that don't know Houston, that's like the north side of Houston.
Yeah. And
And
we're
then
Southwest right now.
right, exactly. And then I'm southwest. Then I have somebody that's more central.
Uh huh.
Actually, I have two people that are more central.
Okay.
I don't have anybody on the south side, and I don't have anybody on the east side.
Yeah.
So if I ever get somebody else, that's probably where I'll focus. But
Interesting.
knowing that, and then each one of them might go out, 40, 50 miles or so.
It's pretty far.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's pretty far. But it might be that the first 30 don't have a trip fee, and then 30 to 40 might be 10 extra dollars, and then 40 to 50 might be 20 extra dollars, or so on.
Sure. I'm assuming those dollars go right to the photographer because they just gonna pay
Yeah,
for gas. Yeah, the gas is crazy
exactly.
right now. Yeah.
They
Okay.
go straight to them. And
Yeah.
and what I tell people, because I get agents all the time that are like, "Oh, I don't want to pay a trip fee," and I'm like, first of all, gas is expensive right now, and then
Yeah.
and
It's
I'm
10
like, and
bucks. Come on.
secondly, if you have a job out in Timbuktu, and that's taking time away that you could have done two jobs closer to your house.
Yeah.
So they're paying for that too. They're paying for time lost.
And I'm sure
So it's
you
not just
train your
gas.
administrator to say those exact lines on the phone.
She does.
Yeah. See,
She's got these things down, like,
she's got it down.
exactly.
It's all in document. It's all
Yeah.
in there.
Oh yeah.
There's a big objections document. She just reads reads off the
Yeah,
doc. Yeah, that's what we try to do
exactly.
too. That's
Yep.
great. That's cool. So let's talk strategy then. So strategically, if you want to expand your operation, you would probably go either the south side of Houston or the east side. It's kind of where you would think. Okay, that makes sense to me. So I didn't realize like you're basically hiring basically based on the area of the city. So that makes sense. That's smart. That's okay.
Right. Yeah. And I don't I wouldn't say we play zone right now. One day I might get to that point where I would say, like, you know, everybody on the north side of town is going to get this particular photographer because she lives on the north side of town. But so far we can't really do that because um, it it just doesn't make sense if she already got a job on the south side of town,
Hmm.
and then the other photographer got one on the north side of town. um the admin might be able to fix things, sometimes she can't. And so if that happens, then I may have one photographer close to the other one's house shooting, two or three jobs there, and then the one that lives there is down the other side of town doing two or three jobs. So
Interesting.
yeah, that hopefully that doesn't happen very often. Ideally, she catches it and then is able to fix those issues, but
Yeah.
it could happen.
And that's just part of the operation, man. Part of optimization.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good
Yeah,
problem to have. You got 6 projects in the same day. We'll make it work.
exactly. I'm
You
looking
want the
at
good problems. Go ahead.
today we had 9, 10 jobs today.
Nice.
So yeah.
Well, great. That's really cool. So here's okay. Let's talk about some things that I think are interesting. And I mentioned earlier on the call, like I want to kind of reverse engineer, right? So we talked about
Okay.
your team, like you talked about administrator, like when you hire one, as when you hire photographers, where they're located, talk about some pricing options, just some ideas, right? People can kind of take and use it if they want. But and also like the efficiency of the operation as well. So, and then how they order, and it's every once in a while they don't even talk to you. It's really cool. Let's talk about customer acquisition. So like, let's assume that someone's not just going to the site ordering, but like you want to expand into the south side or the east side of town, right? And you want to like
Sure.
do that in a way that makes sense, where it's repeatable and predictable. What would be your process or thought process for something like that? And let's just, it doesn't have to necessarily be the south side or east side of Houston. It could just be like, hey, tell me how you expanded in the north side of Houston, and then what's some ideas for folks as they get going.
So it, to do that, you kind of have to back up to when I first got going,
Okay, let's do that.
because it nowadays there's it's so word of mouth at this point that there's very little advertising involved. Now, if I had the opportunity to get a photographer on, let's say, like close to Galveston, which
Mhm.
I would like, by the way, if anybody is watching and they live in Galveston,
Let's
hit
go.
me up.
Hit them up, brother. Got some work for
Hit
you.
me up. But let's say that were to happen at
Great
that
example.
point,
That's an hour.
right?
That's an hour away and a half, maybe an hour 15 from
Yeah.
where we're at, right?
Yep.
So it's a new area. So you're talking
That would
about
be
a
a whole
new.
new,
That's right.
yep,
Okay,
new turf.
new
And
turf. I like this. Tell me about the
yep.
new turf strategy.
So
Go ahead.
if I had somebody down in some new turf, the first thing I would do is locate some I'll call them moderate hitters, not heavy hitters, some moderate hitters down in that area, because the heavy hitters probably have somebody that they use,
Mm-hmm.
just regularly all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and those are really tough to get. But if I can find somebody that's doing like, 2 or 3 listings a month, maybe, um, I'll take them out to lunch, take them to coffee, get in the front of their face. I call that the
Good.
sniper approach. So,
Yes, I love this.
so
Yes.
the shotgun approach would be if I brought a bunch of breakfast tacos to an office
Uh-huh.
and then walked around the office and handed out flyers and talked to people, things like that. You might get somebody out of that. But if you do that sniper approach and you go after one agent, and you can get, and part of my spiel that I'll tell them is, let me do one project for you, just one, and we'll see how it goes. And if it's not better than what you're currently using, then by all means keep doing what you're doing. But if it is better, give me a chance. And if you've got somebody that's your number one, let me be your number two.
Nice.
So that's kind of my elevator
That's a
pitch.
good elevator pitch. I like that. So is the first
Yeah.
one free?
No, never.
No. Okay.
Never. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. I never give anything for free. Like, ain't nothing free.
Good. Good.
I
Good.
would
Okay.
lose money.
Yeah.
Now what I have done before is, if speaking of rare things, if I had somebody that was, let's say they were just disgusted by something, um, they didn't like, usually it's not our fault. Usually it's like, the house wasn't ready, and we called them and said, do you want us to shoot it anyways? And they said, yeah, we got to have those photos, and we
And it
shoot
looks
them.
terrible,
And then
and
they're
nothing
disgusted,
you can do.
and it's beautiful photos of a crappy situation, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes I'll talk to them and I'll say, like, listen, like, we'll go back out at, maybe, I can give you 25% off our normal price, and we'll go back out, or something to that effect. Um, when that happens, they're usually pretty happy. I already know in my head that if I give, half off, I'm not going to lose that much money because of the way the plan works, the business plan. Um, it's an Amazon guy.
You're good. No, you're good. You're good. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm good. I'm good.
No one's
So,
attacking you.
yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah, I thought maybe somebody was sneaking up on me.
You're good.
Um, but yeah. So I know in my head that if in a worst case scenario, I could give somebody 50% off, and I'm not going to lose very much money on that job.
Yeah.
Um, on somebody's first job with us, first project, you know, if I'm feeling them out and I feel like I need to give them something so that they feel like they're going to get something, that I might give them, I won't give them any percentage off. I might just say, I'll give you a free Twilight,
Mm-hmm.
a free Twilight conversion image, or I might give you
Sure.
one virtual stage or something like
Yeah.
that. I'd rather give them some upsell thing to give them a taste of what that's like
Yeah.
rather than just give them money, you
The
know?
reality is at $155, they ain't out a bunch of money. They don't I don't think discounting $20 is gonna be really what gets you in the door, bro. Not really.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
not they just want the results. They want great results so they can sell that dang house and get the big check and go on to the next thing.
Well,
Yeah.
and like I said, if we're going after these moderate to heavy hitters, like in that range, like you said, $150 is not a big deal to them. Like, and then to those agents, 20% off their shoot is not really going to make a hill of beans for them. Like, they want quality product
Yeah.
and they want it fast. Like,
The speed is
so
speed kills. Yeah.
if you can do those two things, if you can, push out a quality product quickly, then you're gonna succeed, I think.
Thank you for listening to this episode. To get an automatic notification of our next podcast episode, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a positive review on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you enjoy your podcast listening. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate you. Keep hustling, and I'll see you in the next episode.